I am going to make a short video on a subject. I'll make a long one later, but right now I'm going to make a short video on the subject of divorce. And I'm going to begin with the story in the Bible where Jesus is confronted by the Pharisees of his day. And remember, Hillel and I forgot the other guy's name. This was a sort of an era when they're putting together the Talmud and these kinds of things. So legal commentary was a big discussion back in the days of Jesus. And so here's what happened. The Pharisees are the party of God. So these were the people that were the most into legal debate. Bring up this legal question to Jesus. And they asked him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife? So let's stop there. They already know that in the Torah, that if it says that if a man isn't pleased to remain with his wife, he can write her a bill of divorce. So what they're looking for is they're going to try and trap him and probably give him a case or two to get a judgment on, or something very specific. So Jesus says to them, well, what did Moses tell you? And in brief, write her a bill of divorce. And then instead of giving a legal opinion on a specific matter, now Jesus is going to talk about the heart of God. He said, Moses gave this to you because of the hardness of your hearts, but in the beginning, that wasn't so. In other words, God didn't design man and women to be fighting, yet alone to be getting rid of each other. Now, namely, in Torah, the provision is like this. A man can put away his wife, but there is something missing in the Torah. It doesn't talk about alimony, doesn't talk about child support. There's a certain assumed righteousness that the Lord gave for his people. But of course, in the days of the Pharisees, they were more interested in putting letters together, making sure you don't break it. And if they can't find a legal opinion, then you're off the hook. So let's continue with the story. Jesus said that God created a man and a woman, therefore the man shall leave his father and his mother, and he will cleave to his wife. So this is the intention. A man should be looking after his wife, and of course, look after his children. And then Jesus goes on to say, if a man puts away his wife and marries another, he commits adultery. Oh, okay, so Jesus is going to make some new rules here. I'm glad, I'm being facetious. I'm glad that when I was a very young man, I used to attend a Messianic Jewish congregation, and this was populated actually by real Messianic Jews. These were ethnic Jewish people. And whenever we got into cases in the New Covenant where Jesus is actually making some kind of comment on the Torah, there's never this assumption that he's going to be adding to it or changing it because it's already perfect. Rather that Jesus is going to give some enlightenment on the subject. Sorry, I'm lying down actually on my front, so it takes some of my breath away. Okay, so given that we're not thinking that Jesus is going to make a new rule, or Jesus is saying there's something wrong with the old rule, So then let's examine what Jesus had to say. He said, it's because of the hardness of your heart. Because some of y'all are jerks. Sometimes a woman could be married to a guy like Nabal, who puts not only her at risk, he put everybody at risk. Maybe he's beating her up or something. There is a provision that perhaps if the family could convince the husband to let her go, they could take her back. But here is not the case scenario, because it says if he puts away his wife and marries another. So I'll give you a possible scenario that they could be thinking about. Let's say, peradventure, a gentleman, he had an arranged marriage when he was young. He marries the girl, but then there's this other girl who he really loves. But the girl he really loves does not want to be his second wife, which was legal. I mean, not second away from, but doesn't want to be second in the line of his list of wives. And certainly she does not want the children that she will have with him to share in the inheritance of the children that he may or may not have with the wife that he has. So if this person, therefore, was to give her a bill of divorce, which according to the Pharisees was probably legal for him to do, he had every right to do this, but then he's leaving the wife destitute, and he's not going to look after the children either. Now, what? See, here's the hint. Look at the next verse. So if he says, not then, or the next thought, whoever puts away his wife and marries another commits adultery. In other words, he's doing some kind of moral offense. There's nothing saying that he did any legal offense, so we can't go there. And whoever puts away, okay, and it says, and whoever puts away his wife causes her to commit adultery. Now we have to consider that. Well, how is that? What if she never marries again? What if she never has another man? You mean just the fact that he leaves her makes her commit adultery? I mean, is it that bad? Now, sometimes I hear of very religious people, and I've heard crazy testimonies like, the guy got saved and then he leaves his second wife and goes back and marries the first wife. And you think, oh, he's so pure and holy, praise Jesus. No, he's not. You know what? The Torah forbids that. Probably don't know that. Or maybe we're going to cancel that rule. Those of you who love rules so much, you're going to cancel that rule in favor of this new rule. No, it doesn't work like that. So you have to then see what is the spirit of what's being said here. If the man puts away his wife, it's causing her to commit adultery because he's not going to look after her. It's not about divorce and remarriage so much as it's about, are you looking after your family? He forces her into a life of prostitution. And perhaps this came up when the guys were going to stone this lady. And Jesus said, I don't condemn you either. Perhaps once they found out the whole story, perhaps that's what had happened. Perhaps she got married as a young woman. The guy gets rid of her in favor of another guy. She has some children. She has to make money to look after them. But, hey, let's stone her. Aren't there lots of countries in the world where they have that kind of mentality? Sure there are. This kind of thing still goes on. It's not about right or wrong. It's all about what their legal system says. Jesus is protecting the moral integrity of the letter here. Wasn't making new rules. He wasn't criticizing the old rule. Okay, so this is where I'm going with this. And, I could go a lot further on this, but I'd love to spend a lot of time looking at a proper exegesis of the sayings of Jesus. People just going to pull out their King James and and just sort of read it and consider it through your, North American 21st century eyes. Doesn't really work that way. We have a lot of resources now that people didn't have before, and perhaps go to Jewish sources for stuff like this, because it would really give you a better light of what Jesus was probably talking about. Okay, I know I'm making some people mad. Oh man, give it to me. People don't seem to be arguing with me. I've been waiting for it ever since I've been starting to do these videos. Come on, give me your opposition. Let's have healthy discussion. Okay, we're not being pejorative. We respect everybody's um, opinion, in that you have opinion. We're not going to ridicule anybody. So if you're going to ridicule me, I'm not going to answer you. But if we want to have healthy debate, I love it. Okay, bye.